Hi everybody, it's Kerrie here at the North East Autism Society, and today we're going to be talking about communication differences in autistic children. And I've got the lovely Sarah with us today, so could you just introduce yourself for us, Sarah?
Yep, I'm Sarah. I'm an autistic adult and I work alongside the neurodiversity think tank with Mia.
Brilliant. So Sarah, your children, I just want to talk about your children today in terms of their communication. What kind of communication differences do you see in them?
Well, all my children are now verbal. Two have always been verbal. My eldest son wasn't fully verbal until he was about 5.5.
Okay.
Until he started a specialist provision. He'd made the odd words. He could make his needs known, but a lot of it was through kind of like body language or through the PEC system, or just grunting, or through behavioural difficulties. So yeah, if something was happening, a lot of it would be, the meltdown or, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I didn't know he wanted to drink until he's on the floor kicking off. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. So yeah, in the early days, it was really, really hard. Just to kind of understand exactly what he needed, because you always think that children are just going to walk and talk, as normal, and it's not until you're faced with communication differences that you really get to understand another side of someone. Mm-hmm. So with Harry, he would they always say communication is only like 7 to 10% verbal.
Yeah.
So I've learned that previously in like kind of work settings that I've used. So I kind of used that to my advantage and explored other ways of communication with him. So we tried PECs, which were okay, but they were very frustrating. Really frustrating for him, because he was only little and he wanted whatever it was, like any
instantly, yeah.
He wants it now, I mean, there's no concept of time. So we kind of explored different avenues. So we started, so we bought him an iPad, downloaded loads of apps. We would make flashcards, we would use the PEC system, and a lot of time just kind of get him, if you know what I mean. Like he would make a certain noise, or he would just point, or the usual kind of little things that kids would do, and we kind of guessed a lot of the time. Really, really guess. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it really, really didn't. But yeah, to try and you'd kind of find your own language. And kids are amazing. I don't remember if you were little, you used to do pygmy English so that your mum wouldn't understand what you were saying, but she did.
No.
Do you remember, like Chase?
I don't know that one.
You would take a word, say like right, and you would take the first letter, so the R, and put it on the end, so you'd be like itar.
Okay, no, I don't. Like, I used to call mushrooms.
That must just be me.
I did call mushrooms yatams for a long time, but no, I've never done that one. But
it was like coded words that I used to use with my cousins when I was younger. It was really strange sort of languages. But you do find, if you observe children, there is language everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not always verbal. Now, my eldest and youngest communicate through laughs, different types of laughing. So yeah, I've kind of got a bit of it. So I know when they're up to something, because it's kind of high pitched and warbly. But yeah, they do a lot of hand touching. So they're not trained in. It's not Helen Keller or whatever it is. But they do a lot of kind of codes with each other. So they will develop some sort of way of communicating with you. It's just trying to find out what it is, and being very observant, I think. So yeah, trying to find something that works for you and for them. It doesn't just have to be verbal. But communication is everywhere, through language, through expression, through body. There's always a way. It might not be conventional, but there is always a way to communicate with someone. It's just
I think you're right, because sometimes we presume that verbal is the highest form of communication, but actually there's so many other ways people communicate with each other, isn't there? Absolutely. Because I was watching a film the other night actually, and there was a guy on there speaking Spanish, they were having a conversation, and I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know what they were saying, but I could pick up on what was going on through the body language and the facial expressions and the gestures, and that just brought home to me the importance of, you know, communication isn't only verbal.
It's like opera.
Yeah,
you can get the gist of what's going on through expression, through, do you know what I mean, like everything that's going on. And obviously if you have difficulty reading facial expressions, but there's body language everywhere, you know. I mean, it's quite a powerful way to show that you don't have to fully understand to understand.
Absolutely.
And there are so many different ways of communication. So I mean, you've got Makaton, you've got sign language, you've got I don't know what it is that there was a film with Helen Keller.
Don't know that one.
Oh, it's a fantastic film. She got a young girl who was basically feral, so it's like my children. She was blind. She was, I think she had hearing difficulties, that sort of stuff, and she would grab food off the tables. It was set in an older time, and they brought in this nanny after various nannies to try and tame her, and she taught her to
tap.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is, but yeah, she taught her to communicate through these certain feelings, all through the hands and stuff.
Okay, we'll have to look into that.
Maybe early day sign language. I don't know, but it's a phenomenal film. Helen Keller. Yeah, it was something.
Look into that one.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film, really kind of eye-opening. But you see all of the outside perspective on this child and all the negative, because she can't communicate. She's feral. She's completely wild. You know, you know, and it takes someone else to come in and go, well, actually,
see it from a different perspective.
Communicating with you. Yeah, you just need to kind of look at it differently.
Because often I read reports from professionals that say this person cannot communicate, and I always, you know, if parents are getting reports like that, you need to be going back and saying everybody communicates. It's just they're communicating.
Well, we need to find a way that they can.
Our job to find out how. Yeah. So how did you feel, Sarah? What were your feelings like? Because I know a lot of the families I work with get really stressed in them early days when the child isn't speaking, wondering when are they going to talk, are they going to talk? Because obviously some children may never use verbal language as an adult. How did you feel in those early days? Did you feel that kind of worry about the future?
I felt rubbish, really rubbish. That at first I thought, well, it's because I haven't done enough as a parent. I haven't, you know, maybe I should have talked to them more as a baby. I should have read to him, or even sang. I should have done more. You know, I really kind of homed in and just blamed myself, because that's what you're taught. You know, it's your fault as a parent. That's, you know, you're meant to be able to do these things for your child. And it was really difficult, especially because I kind of knew what he was wanting anyway, if you know what I mean. Not like a mother's instinct, but he was clearly expressing a need or a want, or, you know, it just random stuff, do you know what I mean, like iPad or something, you know. It was really kind of it was already telling us. We just needed to understand how he was telling us. And it wasn't until and we found Makaton, because his school used it across the board anyway, whether verbal or not. It's another way.
Brilliant.
All teachers are completely trained in it, and it was giving him not only a tool to express with his hands, a new way of communicating, but so because they use Makaton alongside any teaching, and obviously sign language, British Sign Language, and other communication aids as well in the school, so it became normal. So he was not normal. It became just, it was an everyday thing. It was
just a thing that,
So this stuff was available all the time.
You know? And helps everyone.
Yeah, so if Makaton didn't work, there was always something else, you know, another route for them to try, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, he started signing, using Makaton, and because they use verbal because they talk alongside Makaton, he was able to make the connection.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I suppose it's always been in. I think, well, whether you can speak or not, you've always got a voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was, and it was about kind of not retraining him, but giving him tools. And we were really, really lucky that he was then able to start talking. But obviously, it's not the case for absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that just because they can't verbalise, that there are avenues to explore, and there are other ways for your child and adult to communicate. So yeah, initially I would think when I first got it, like the diagnosis for Harry, and the whole, he's not going to talk, it'd be very hard for him, that sort of stuff, and I started comparing with
as parents do.
and I started going, well, she's 6 years old and she's doing this and she's gymnastics and she's doing competition, and I'm thinking, my child's never going to do that. And then it's until you reach that point, that you need to start kind of going, do you know what? Just get rid of them. Get rid of the comparisons. Get rid of the milestones. Get rid of the whole, my child should be doing this at this age. Just stop it. Just as hard as it's going to be, just stop. And I really think that, a time will come when something would just happen. But as if they don't have the tools and the information beforehand, they're never going to get there. But yeah, I don't think it's the be all and end all. And coming from a hyperverbal and having 3 children, sometimes you think, I wish I hadn't taught them. But no, I don't think, there's times, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of our parents, when her little boy one of our toddlers wasn't using verbal language, and he went off over the summer holidays, and he came back and he developed this whole vocabulary, and Mum was like, oh my goodness. She was like, he's not shutting up now.
And I feel bad for saying it, because obviously there's parents out there that go, oh, I would just love to hear them say, I love you. I would just love to hear them say, I want this, or, just have to say mummy or something like that. And, and it's heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking. But Harry would say, I love you. Do you know what I mean? And but not fit like verbally. He would say it in other ways. And I think that makes it even more special, because no matter what his barrier, he was still able to communicate in some shape or form. And I thought that was even more kind of better. Do you know what I mean? I felt really, really privileged that despite all of his issues, he was still able in some way to communicate with us.
It's about that connection, isn't
it? And it is. And I love that even better than him just turning around and going, mummy, I love you. Because now normally when he says mummy, I love you, he wants something.
He's up to something.
It's not special anymore.
Brilliant, Sarah. Thank you for such an insightful look really into communication. That has been fantastic. Thank you very much.